Hello and welcome back to this channel. Today we're going to see how to work with two user interfaces. The first user interface we're going to work with is what we call the graphical user interface, and the second interface is the command line interface. So we'll be seeing how to work with files and folders. So we're going to work with files at the same time we're going to work with folders. We're going to see how to modify our ways with files and folders. So the items that we have on our system, be it files, music, audio, and all those stuff, they need to be organized into what we call they need to be organized as files and then folders. They need to be arranged. They need to be grouped in the right and alphabetical order, or it needs to be arranged in a series of organized folders in order to make our desktop list nicer and then custom. Just like in our room, we need to keep things in order, keep things in place so that the room looks nicer. That's exactly the same thing that we need to do here. So you're going to see how to work with these folders. You're going to see how to create a folder. You see how to create a file. You see how to delete a folder, rename a folder. At the same time, delete them as well. So that's what we're going to see how to do that. So a user can only interact with this system, or we can interact with our operating system using two interfaces. The first interface, as you have said earlier, is a graphical user interface, whereby you could see these desktops, whereby you're hearing the term like clicking, deleting, all those ones. Whatever you use your mouse to perform on your system, just as you are seeing here, that's a graphical user interface. And then situation whereby you type for an action to be performed or an action to be executed is the use of So I'm just going to click on the start button and then I'll type command prompt. So this is the command line interface. So if you hear of people right clicking on their system to perform an action, all those options that you see here is a graphical. And situations whereby you type on this interface here called the command prompt, that's the graphical user interface. So when you type with this interface, then we said that you're using the command line interface. So we can decide to work with a folder using the graphical to organize the folders as we want in the files. At the same time, we can type things in here for the same action to be executed. So whatever we execute on our system using the graphical user interface to perform the same, we can also do the same thing alternatively with the command line interface. Let's see how to create files and folders using the graphical user interface. So let's assume that you want to create the file or a folder on the desktop. So we're going to create two files. Remember, there are so many files, but for our example purposes, we want to create we use Notepad to create our file. So what we're going to do is, you have to first create a folder. So in order to create a folder on this desktop, so if I want to create a folder on the desktop, I can just select the desktop and I create it there. But I want to create it on a different location. And on my taskbar, I have to locate this option called the taskbar, the File Explorer. So I have to click on the File Explorer, and here I have an option to choose. So you can see the folders in here. The default folder has been created on this system. You have desktop, pictures, music, and stuff. So what you see here simply means if you have videos, it's good and best to organize all those information of you. So you place videos in this container, pictures in that container, in that order. So if you have a music, you keep it here. Every file that you download from the internet using your web browser goes in here straight away. And some document files that you work with, being Notepad, Microsoft Word document, any text editors that you use, after you're done saving those documents, it comes into this document folder. But for our case, we want to create whatever you want to create. You want to keep it on the desktop. So if I want to keep it in the desktop, I have to go into my desktop and then I can create it right here. But I'm going to close this and then I create it right here. So in order, don't forget that you can choose the location that you want to create. So if I want to create it on music, I choose pictures and I can create it here. So it depends on whatever action or whatever you intend to create this folder. But for my case, I want to create it on my desktop. So in order to create a folder, you have to right click on an empty area, right click, then you select new, and then from new you select what folder. So I just click on folder and then it appears here. So I can just, you can see new folder 2 has been created here because I already have a folder there already called new folder. So the next folder will be new folder 2, new folder 3 in the order. So the folder name will be highlighted by default when you create it for the first time, asking you or waiting for you to give a name. But if I don't give a name and I click outside, it picks or it accepts the name that was given, the default name. So if let's say I'm creating another one, this time around when I click on folder, you see it gives me folder 3. But this time around I'm going to click on the backspace, I'm going to delete this, then I'm going to type this one as folder 1. I'll type folder 1 right here, then I'm going to hit on the enter key and then it accepts the folder 1. To create another one, the same thing, new and then folder 3, and then I'm going to clear and then put something 1, and you can see I have created 2 folders just like that. So that is how to work with this folder. So I've created 2 folders on my desktop. Now let's see how to create a file as well. So in order to create a file, just have to right click on the desktop, then it selects new, and then you choose any of the file. Remember we said we want test edit document, so we select test document. If you want Microsoft Word document, you can choose it from here, PowerPoint, Publisher, Excel, Access, and the rest. So you have to choose any. For my case, I prefer test editor, so I just click on test document. That's, I want to launch Notepad. So you can see from here it happens the name is new test document. So I can give you also a name, let's say test 1, and the file also has been created. Let me create one last file. So I'll do it again. Let's say I want to go for Word document, so I select Word document, and then you can see, and I also call this one file 2, and it's selected. So what I can do is I can just double click on the test 1 and I can type something in here. So I can just provide the content, whatever I want to keep here I can just put it here, and right when I'm done I have to click on file and then I can click on what, save. Either I click on save as to choose the path. Already have the path, so I just click on save and then to be saved onto this system. Then I can close it, and then if I double click on the test again, I should have the same test in there. So that is it. The same thing applies to Word. If I double click on it, I can keep my test in it as I want to keep it in. So this is how to create files and folders on your desktop. Situations, at times you would like to rename the names that has been given to your folder, or sometimes as you be in your room, you would like to rearrange the items that you have in your room. So applies to the files and folders on our desktop. So sometimes you like to readjust or make changes to the folder's name and the file's name and the content that is within it. So what we can do is that if you want to rename your folder, all we can do is you have to right click on the folder and then you have an option rename. Then I just click on what, rename. So right when I click on rename, it will give you an option to give it a new name. So I'm just going to give it a name as folder, and this name, if I click outside, it picks the new name. So you see I have modified the existing name, so I've renamed it to a new name. Let's do the same thing for this one. I'm just going to right click, select rename, and then here I'm going to call it log, and you can see log also is right in here. So you can see I've renamed it from existing to the current. So at first it was 1 and now it has been renamed to 1 log. Now let's see the test. The test. If I want to rename the same process, so I'm going to right click and then I'll select rename, and then I'll give a new name. So let's say I want to call this test 2, then I click outside and then the test will be accepted. I can just right click on the last option, rename, and I'm going to call this file 1 and then execute this, and you can see it right here. So this is how to rename files and folders. Let's also see how to copy a folder or a file from one location to another location. So let's create one new folder. So I'm going to right click on my desktop and I'll select new and I'll go for a folder. So now this folder has been created. And I'm going to call this folder back. So what I'm going to do is that I am going to copy the files and then folders into back. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to maintain Golda. But what I'll do is that I'm going to right click on Golda and I'm going to select copy. And then I come in here, right click on back, and then I'm going to paste it right in here. You can also use a shortcut to do that. In order to copy Golda, the shortcut to do the same thing is to select the file, then you press Ctrl+C to copy, and then you come and select on the file on the folder that you want to paste it into, then you press Ctrl+V on your keyboard, and then the file will be pasted into that location. So let's double click on back and see what is in there, and you can see right when I double click on back, I can see this file in there. So let's work with this way. So now let me copy lock and then paste it right in here, and as you see lock also appears right there. Let's try the text editor, right click, copy. Remember you can also copy multiple. So what I can do, I can select the two files right in here, right click, and I'm going to copy, and then I right click on back and I'm going to paste it into back, and you can see multiple. So I can decide to copy multiple files, so I can copy a single file or a folder. So that is that. So you've seen how to copy files into from one location to another location. Now, let's see how to move or cut a file from its current location into a permanent location, or from this location into a different location. So what we do with the moving or with the cutting is that it's going to move whatever we have here into the specified location. So I'm going to create a new folder, new, and I'm going to call it new. Then I click outside. So what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to highlight multiple files or folders. I'm going to select this folder called lock and then file. Right when it's selected, I can just click holding the text, and then you can see right when I click and hold and drag the text into new, it just tells me below that I'm moving to new. If I'm okay with that, I have to leave the mouse. So I leave the mouse and then it moves straight into new. So now if I double click in new, you can see that now I have these two files in new. Now let's try it for this file too. So what I can do, I can right click on a file and then I can also select cut. So cut does the same thing. Then I'm going to paste it into the respective location. So you can see I've pasted that one also here. So in order to bring it back to you have to select it, right click, cut all the files in the files in the folder, and I'm going to paste it, and you can see it comes back just like that. Right click on it again to cut, or we can select this file, press down the control button, and then you select the second file and then a folder and then the last file. Then I can drag, then I can leave it into my respective location, or I can move it straight into where I want to take it to. So that is how to work. So if I leave it in here, then it's going to move from its location. So moving and cutting does the same, or it perform the same function. So I can decide to move it from its existing location into a new permanent location. So that is how to work with it. So now let me just bring it back. So I just brought it back here, and that is it. So now that is how to move or cut some files from one location into another location. Now lastly, let's also see how to delete if you don't want any of the files that you have created, any of the folders that has been created on your system or the desktop, and you want to delete them. How do you go about it? So what you have to do is to select the file or a folder you don't want to work with. You right click on the file or a folder, and then you select delete, and the folder goes into the recycle bin, just as we said. So when the folder is deleted, it doesn't move straight from your system, but it goes straight into your recycle bin, in the sense that you might want to retrieve the information anywhere soon. So if you don't want to retrieve the information anywhere soon, all you do is right click and then you select what? Empty recycle bin. Then it gives you a prompt that do you want to permanently delete this folder. If you select yes, then it's going to clear whatever is in it, and you lose the original content that you kept in there. So when you delete files, it doesn't delete completely, it goes straight into the recycle bin, waiting for temporary what? So it stores at a temporary location. If you need it, you can just go in there and restore the information you need. So I can just right click on this text. Remember, you can highlight two, right click on that, and then you select what? Delete. So I click on delete, and the files also go straight into the recycle bin. I can right click on the recycle bin again, and then empty recycle bin. So that is how to delete a file or a folder.